It's a long walk, but he'll give you.
Pontius Pilate, prefect of Jerusalem, from Gaius Flavius Metellus, commander, 3rd Cohort, 10th Legion. Sir, this is a record of the events at the Garden Tomb yesterday morning. I arose before daybreak in order to accompany the officer of the day and the sergeant of the guard to post the morning watch at the tomb of the one called Jesus of Nazareth. We marched out just as day was breaking. When we were about 100 yards from the tomb, we experienced a violent earthquake that halted our forward progress. When the quake had subsided, we advanced at the double time to the garden. Upon arriving, we found the watch recovering from the effect of the earthquake. I immediately turned my attention to the entrance of the tomb and found that it was open and empty. I questioned the current watch and found that they were rendered unconscious by the quake. It must have been during this time that the followers of this Jesus slipped in and stole his body. My troops cannot be at fault for failing this important mission, for they were completely at the mercy of this natural disaster. Please rest assured that this missing body will be found, and we will leave no stone unturned in the quest to recover it. It is our primary mission that we find these followers and obtain the whereabouts of this body. We cannot have a resurrected prophet running around causing problems for Rome. Respectfully, Gaius Flavius Metellus, Commander, 3rd Cohort, 10th Legion. I've written my report. As soon as I place my seal on it, it will officially be still alive. Do you want to know what happened that morning? The first part is correct. I did arouse before dawn. My attendant helped with my armor. I met with the sergeant of the guard and the commander, and we went out to the garden tomb with 20 more soldiers. About 100 yards from the tomb, the earthquake ensued. We marched at the double time to make it to the garden tomb. And my eyes beheld a sight I'd never seen before. I saw a figure that struck fear in my heart. I faced Parthians. I faced Scythians. I faced Macedonian pirates. And they all fell by that sword. This one struck fear in my heart because I saw no fear in him. He had a face like lightning. His garment was snow white. He descended from the sky and touched the ground and reached and put his hand on a 5,000-pound stone and moved it with one hand. I looked at my soldiers and they were just as fearful as I was. And then he raised his hand and looked at us. It felt like every bone left my body. I hit the ground without stopping. It was as if he was holding us down. During this time, I heard voices. I heard women talking. Who will roll the stone away? Then I heard this one speak. Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He is risen. We got to Jerusalem just after he entered. The the week prior. We marched down when we heard about the raising of this one called Lazarus at Bethany. Pilate had requested additional troops. I marched the third cohort down. 500 battle-trained soldiers ready to do business. Then a messenger came from the temple and said one of his followers was going to betray him. I moved a century of soldiers around the mountain that he was on, and he was brought down without a fight. They called on one of my soldiers to be the lictor in his flogging. Usually a flogging is quite enough, because it would take a man several weeks to recover from one. What I witnessed would have took a man 6 months to recover from. This still wasn't good enough for the Jews. They wanted him crucified. We were called on again to provide 12 soldiers to crucify 2 criminals, theft and murder, and this man. Now it's typical. When you crucify a man, he's not actually your friend. There's cursing, there's swearing. He spits sometimes from the cross at his onlookers. These other 2 did that very thing. Quite according to the script. But the man in the middle treated everything differently. Understand this. He shouldn't have been there. I heard him say things from the cross. He called upon his Father to forgive because they didn't know what they were doing. We knew exactly what we were doing. We were executing criminals. But then he looked at one of his onlookers and told him he was going to take care of his mother. Then he told his mother to go with this young man. Then darkness settled over the face of the earth. This was not night. It was noon, the hottest part of the day, the brightest sun, and suddenly it went dark as night. In that, I heard him cry out again. He said, it called upon their prophet Elijah. Another said, no, he said that his father had forsaken him. I didn't understand. But everybody that gathered around there had forsaken him too. Then it suddenly became daylight again. And he cried out in a loud voice. This was not usually the voice you hear after someone's been on the cross for 6 hours in the excruciating heat. This wasn't a hoarse cry. This was a battle cry. I would form my troops, I would say, "Fortescue!" It was this voice that he shouted. An onlooker says, he said it was finished. But then he asked for a drink. I instructed one of my soldiers to give him a drink from our jug. It was sour wine. You call it vinegar. We use it to help cut the dust from our throats on marches. It helps us to absorb water better. But then I saw him bow his head, and I heard no more from him. The night was rapidly approaching, so I told my soldiers, we need to hasten this up, break their legs. When you break a man's legs on the cross, he cannot push up to get a breath, so he'll suffocate. When we came to this man, we found he was already dead. So I instructed Tullio with the spear. I placed the spear under his ribs, and he made an upward thrust. Blood and water came out. We knew this man was dead. He was taken down, put in the tomb. We were marching back when a tribune came out and told us from Pontius Pilate that we were to set a guard over this dead man's tomb. We've guarded living people. I've guarded dignitaries, but I've never guarded a dead man before. And we guarded this dead man for 2 days. The third day, the Sunday morning, his tomb was open, and this man was gone. And the voice said that he had risen, just like he had said. This defies all of logic that I have, that I possess. How can a man whom we know was dead be alive now? So as soon as we were able to recover, I formed the existing detail, the relief detail, and we marched back towards Jerusalem when we were met by 3 of the Pharisees. They told us, "Come with us." We went to the temple, we stood in the courtyard, and the high priest came out with an ox cart. And he began to give bags of money to my troops. I did not receive a bag of money. I received a chest of coins. 5,000. You will say that his disciples stole his body in the night while you slept. And I told them Roman soldiers don't sleep on duty. It is death. Soldiers' death by the sword. We're sleeping on duty. If this reaches the governor's ears, we will take care of it. So, I took care of my troops. And I took care of myself. 5,000 denarii is a nice retirement fund. When I reach Gaul, 5,000 will buy me additional acres. But where is he? What was it that voice said? Go tell his brothers that he will meet him in Galilee. I know exactly what we will do. We will form and march back to Capernaum, and I will look for this Jesus. That's where he said he would be. I have many questions. I hope he's ready to answer.